Today's podcast episode is sponsored by
Michael and Michelle Lassen, First State Bank Mortgage, Equal Housing Lender.
Visit us on our website at yourlakeloan.com. We want to be your home loan professionals, your lake lenders.
Hey, Lake listeners, thanks for tuning in for more of Season 6 with our Grow, Thrive, Inspire podcast, a podcast created to help you grow both personally and professionally, to thrive with clear goals and visions, and to inspire. So whether you're a full-time resident here at Lake of the Ozarks, a visitor, or hope to be either in the future, we know you're going to love this episode as much as we do. So today on the show, I'm super excited to highlight an amazing individual who is a second-generation realtor who has been in the business since she was 8 and was licensed on her 18th birthday. Recipient of awards like the 2020 Missouri Realtors Elizabeth Mendenhall E3 Award, that's a mouthful, and the 2023 Treasurer of Missouri Realtors Award. And she is now the COO of RE/MAX Regional Services in our region here in the Midwest. So it's time for me to introduce my new friend, Miss Bobbi Howe. Bobbi, thank you so much for being on the show. I can't wait to talk about you and your history and the journey to where you are now.
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I love podcasts myself. I always got a long list to listen to, and this is now in my rotation of what I listen to, and I'm just very honored to be here with you today.
Awesome. I love that you're a fan of the show. I really appreciate it. I'm super excited today. So I want to kind of start with where I do with all of my guests and just kind of have you take a minute and tell our listeners and myself a little bit more about yourself and just kind of where you found the passion to do what you do.
So you mentioned that I've been in real estate pretty much my entire life. We'll probably get into that a little bit more later. I've tried to escape it, and yet I still am here. And I have a husband of, oh goodness sakes, we're coming up on 26 years here. And yes, I know I got married when I was like -1. So let's not try to do the math on that. We're coming up on 26 years. We've got a 10-year-old little boy who is in 4th grade. He loves to play the violin. They are my whys because I just want to have incredible life experiences with both of them. And I will probably talk later about why that's super important to me personally. But my passion to do what I do is having grown up in the real estate industry, having seen my mom and a whole lot of other people burn the candle at both ends. My passion is to help people see that the day-to-day is not all that there is, that there's more to life than we give. And I actually started getting involved with the State Association of Realtors first. That worked backwards to my local association and then up to the National Association. And that's where I started to see some true balance and see where we truly can reach people in a different way than just the day-to-day real estate.
Oh, I love that. Now, when you were a second generation agent, like you told me, when you were growing up, did you know that you were going to become an agent?
No, real estate was the last thing that I was ever going to do. And generally, if you speak to anyone who's a second, third, fourth generation, they all say the same thing. I'm never going to do it. I actually went to, it was SMS at the time, now MSU in Springfield, was going to get my athletic training degree. And then some things happened that didn't work out. And then I got a business degree, but still wasn't going to go back in real estate. And then I got a call from my mom that's like, I need you to come back to real estate. And I came back. And now I've done a gajillion different things in real estate. I've done pretty much almost everything except for the lending side. And I just, it's where my true passion is. It's where I see the most opportunity to help people.
Well, I love that. And I want to dig a little bit deeper too. As you were growing up with real estate just always around you constantly, just what was that like? I mean, I'm sure as a kid you were like, this is great and all, but I kind of want to do something different, but you just couldn't get out of it.
So I always joke that, my mom got into real estate when I was 8, and I used to go on every listing, every showing, everything. Like I would entertain the kids. If the buyers or sellers had, children there, I would entertain them. And then when I was about 10 years old, I started writing my mom's contracts for her because, that long ago, they were 1-page carbon copy. Mm-hmm. And my mom was left-handed and she had horrible handwriting. So First of all, I had way better handwriting as a righty than she did. Now I'm sure off all the left-handed people, but my mom had horrible handwriting. Let's just be honest. And then she would put a closing on Sunday, or she would misspell the word refrigerator. And I was a smart aleck 10-year-old, and I loved to correct my mom. And so one day she said, well, if you're so smart, why don't you write the contract? Well, I wrote a perfect contract. So that's how I made my allowance growing up, was I wrote my mom's contracts. I did all of her marketing. I was in the trenches from the time I was 10 years old on. And so that getting licensed on my 18th birthday, that's not even a joke. My mom's like, you're going to be licensed, and now I can truly pay you. So that's
amazing. What I love about that is that your mom was just like, I need all the help. I need all the help. And you're just like, okay.
I was an only child, so that I didn't really have any choices. I didn't have any brothers or sisters that I could farm all this stuff off to. And my mom had been married 5 different times. It's not even like she really had like a consistent husband she could pawn things off on. It was just me. I was the constant that was there.
Bobbi, it sounds like your history and my history just are the same. Single kid, only one to kind of bounce stuff around. So I
Yeah.
totally relate to that. But when you got licensed at 18, what steps did you take to kind of develop your own business at that point? Like transitioning from working with your mom and kind of helping her with hers. Obviously, you had to focus on yours now. So what was that like? Because you had a ton of experience.
Right. So what's really interesting is that I actually didn't go off on my own for quite some time. My mom and I had a very, very strong team. She was I'm from St. Joe, which is just about an hour north of Kansas City.
Okay.
We had there really wasn't teams back in the day. Like, we go far back. Teams was not a thing. My mom was the number one agent in our community for over 20 years, and I was just her right-hand gal running the team. But as a part of the story is there became a time where alcoholism started to take over her career. And I vividly remember to this day we were showing a church to a local personal injury attorney, which is just the two far ends. And it was about 10:30 a.m. And my mom was about 10 feet away from me, and I could smell the alcohol in her breath. And I grabbed her and I yanked her outside, and I said, Mom, what are you doing right now? And she said, you don't understand. This is how I deal with what I'm going through in this industry. And so then I had to make some choices. We were with a different franchise. We were not with RE/MAX at the time. And I had to decide, did I want to stay on the team with her, or did I want to go off on my own and create my own identity? Because I was known in the community as Nancy's daughter. And I didn't want to become known as drunk Nancy's daughter. I just wanted to be Bobbi. And so I decided that actually I left the franchise we were with, and I actually went over to RE/MAX. And I remember showing my mom, I gave my mom an opportunity to leave and come with me. And I showed her how much more money she would actually make at RE/MAX versus the franchise she was with. And she said, but I'm loyal. And I said, okay, you be loyal, but I'm going to go build my own business. And that's what I did, as I broke off and I went and built my own business at that point.
Well, that's amazing. And it's interesting to me how you brought up, alcoholism kind of affecting and taking over your mom. And what's interesting to me is I kind of see that trend too within our industry. I mean, just with lots of alcohol, lots of things to help cope through different experiences and transactions and stuff. And so I'm glad that you brought that to light, because, it's everywhere, and it seeps into all industries. So I think that's really interesting.
Well, wine, as it relates to even just COVID 3 years ago, wine culture, mommy drinking culture has become a very, very real thing. And it's just one of those things where when we were trapped inside our house, it was easy just to have, instead of having cocktails over the weekend, then it was like, well, Thursday night I'll have a cocktail. Well, then Wednesday night. And then it becomes an every night thing. And you get into a cycle that's very hard to break and supported by the society that we're in nowadays. And so it's
Absolutely.
good and bads with it.
Well, and I know that we are coming up on a really important topic of, talking about mental health and things like that. But I want to just because I get so passionate about it. I think that goes hand in hand. I know I have my own personal experience with, dependency and alcohol and overcoming that. And so I love to shed light on that as much as I do mental health. So I love that you brought that up. So getting back to you for a little bit more, what do you think is kind of important now for agents to consider in their business, just given all your history?
So the thing that it comes back to, and I have interviews and meet with, as I run my own podcast as well. And so I interview a lot of people just like you're interviewing me. And the top producers that I speak to, the thing that we hear over and over again, and the thing that I've said over and over again, and I hate saying go back to the basics, but the basics in real estate will always work. And it's creating relationships. It's creating a network of people that have your back as much as you have your back. You know, I always love to say that we are the sum total of the 5 people closest to us. So make sure you fill those 5 spots with people who are better than you, who will lift you up and make you better at your craft. And the other part of that is being consistent. I actually just taught a staff meeting earlier today, and one of my favorite books that I love to read and I love to teach from is called The 4 Disciplines of Execution by Sean Covey. And that book literally changed my life because it taught me how to achieve goals and achieve new things in the midst of the whirlwind. And especially in real estate, we feel that whirlwind of the reacting to the emails that come in while we're sleeping, the text messages that deals are falling apart. And it's easy to have an entire week where you don't accomplish anything except putting out fires, yet you have to move your business forward. And so that's it. Everybody's got their own way of generating leads. I'm not going to tell you whether to go door knock or do open houses or play on TikTok all day long, but it goes back to building relationships and having those people who know you and appreciate you as much as you appreciate them.
Well, and I am a huge proponent of that too, being a trainer for our brokerage myself and working with agents all the time and just business owners in general. And it really comes back to, for me, outside of the real estate industry, just any business, you know, good systems and processes, great relationship based models, and then going back to those basic structures, because there's 1,000 ways, a million ways even to generate business. But if you're not putting it through a system or a process, then what are we doing? You know?
Yep. You said it exactly the same way that I always say it. There's 1,001 different ways to generate leads in this business. But when you get in front of a group of realtors, if you say, we're going to talk lead generation, 99% of the room puts their head down like, oh, I don't want to talk about lead generation because they think you're talking about cold calling or some stupid thing they don't want to do. You don't have to do it that way. You get to find your own way that works for you.
Yeah, and that's what I love about too, because just business building in general, you want to find the ways that you enjoy doing that business, or else you're gonna get burnout. You're gonna quit.
Yes.
So
100%.
I just me and you are gonna be besties, Bobbi. I can already tell. I know. Okay, so what led you to becoming the now COO of our RE/MAX regional services?
Okay. So I was with one franchise. I left. I came over to RE/MAX. I had some stuff happen with me that we'll probably talk about here in a little bit that it affected me and made me like start to question staying in this industry or what I did. And it was about that time that someone came to me and gave me or offered to me the opportunity to open another franchise in my community. And so I actually opened I'm going to say their name. It's okay. I opened a Keller Williams office in St. Joe. I was the first person to do that. We assumed that we would open up to about 5 agents. We were a brand new office, but we opened up day 1 to 41 agents. We were the second largest office in our community on day 1. And it was there during that time that I started seeing the opportunities that I had to talk to agents and train them in a way that nobody had ever taught or trained my mom. And so that gave me a new life in this industry. And it was from there I had the opportunity to run a 350 agent office in North Kansas City. And over 3.5 years, I built that up to about a 500 agent office in North Kansas City. And by the time I was done at those 3.5 years, I was completely burnt out on life. My family actually came to me at one point in time and said, you've turned into a jerk. It's either your job or it's us. And it was during this time that I had started doing some speaking nationally. And I realized I'm not having the effect that I want to have because I'm so stressed out every day in the day-to-day operations of my office. 500 people in one office is just too many. I'm just sorry. I'm going to put it out there. It is way too many people, especially for one leader to have any sense of control or anything. And so I left from there and I started coaching brokerages around the country. It allowed me that one-on-one with broker owners to help them change the lives of their agents. And I really could get behind what I was doing. And then Dennis Curtin, our region owner for RE/MAX, he approached me last spring. It was almost a year ago to the day, and said, hey, I might have an opportunity and I would like to figure out if we could work together, if this would be mutually beneficial for the two of us. And in October, they announced me as the chief operating officer, and it's taking what I've enjoyed doing over the last few years and just putting it on steroids essentially now. And I love every day.
Well, that's super cool. And I mean, kudos to Dennis, right? For, giving you that opportunity and letting you run with it. He is such an amazing leader himself. So I just can't imagine what that's like to be able to work with him every day. Oh my gosh, I would die. I would die. That would be so
It is
cool.
a lot of fun. It is. It really is.
So, just real quickly, what would be just some quick responsibilities that you have as COO?
So for Chief Operating Officer for RE/MAX Regional Services, we have the region that you're a part of, which is our Mid-States region, which is about 3/4 of Missouri. We don't have the St. Louis area, but we have all of Kansas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. And then we also have a southern region, which has Louisiana, Alabama, and Mississippi. So we have about 240 offices in the 7 states. And so I essentially oversee the operations for all of our franchises in those 7 states. I oversee the day-to-day operations of our staff here in our office. We have a franchise sales team that's spread out. We have people in Florida. We've got people here in Missouri and Kansas, and just the day-to-day operations. And it's funny because you asked me, what do you do day to day? And it's like, no, that's what I love. No 2 days are the same. It's very much like real estate. When I was running the other office, there was a rhythm and a pattern to every day, and I kind of, but this, you never know what's going to happen each day. And it's what I love about it.
I love that too. My position with our brokerage has kind of shifted that direction too. So every time I'm coming in, I'm like, well, hit me with it, because I'm all for it, because I love the different day, approach. Just you never know what's coming, but I'm going to tackle it, and it kind of gives it a little edge of more just fun and uniqueness to the job.
Yes.
So, okay, big question. I'm sure you get asked this all the time, but why RE/MAX? You mentioned that you were with other brokerages we won't mention, but I just would love to know just why RE/MAX.
So what I've noticed during my times with the other franchises, and this, quite frankly, is no dig on them, not at all, but that to them, growth is just numbers, and solely numbers alone, meaning agent count is all that matters. The thing that I noticed with RE/MAX, I noticed it before, and whenever I came back and I was sitting in a room of our top brokers from around the country, and we talked about focusing on top producers, agents who actually sell real estate, and people who aren't selling real estate, inviting them to hang their license somewhere else. That's not a negative thing, because people always say, what's the best brokerage? There's no one size fits all. That's why there are so many different brands. But RE/MAX's focus is on agents that are producing and selling homes. And that's what just brings me the joy. I mean, just even seeing the numbers that recently came out from, Real Trends, of looking at brokerages that I've been at before, average agents is selling 4 to 5 homes per year. RE/MAX agents are selling an average of 16 homes per year. That's where I want to be. I go back to you are the sum total of the 5 people around you. I'm surrounded by talent, and I want to be a part of talent.
I love that. And I'm going to take that just a step further too, Bobbi, because for me, it's not only the focus on the top producers and those particular agent, those particular circle of agents. For me, it's how RE/MAX takes the time to build the business that an agent wants to sustain, and wants to thrive with. And it's not just oh, well, here's everything kind of as a fire hydrant of information. It's, really accountable one-on-one situations where you have somebody like myself, a director of opportunity, a manager, a broker, who is literally sitting down with you going, how do you want this to look? How can we get you there? What goals do you want to achieve? And that is my why for RE/MAX. I love it. It's so inspiring.
Yeah, it's so different than anything else. When I left from one franchise to go to a different franchise, things felt very the same. RE/MAX just is different, which truly
Mhm.
is.
I love it. Okay, so now I want to switch back to you personally because one of my favorite things about you is that you are, like you said, a national speaker. You speak on
Mhm.
topics like mental health issues. That's a huge, important topic for you. And being a huge supporter of that myself, I just wanted to highlight why this subject is important to you.
Mhm. So I mentioned that when I left the one franchise to come to RE/MAX, my mom didn't come with me, and it was a few months later that I got pregnant and I was having a baby and all kinds of exciting things. And I took some time off for maternity leave when I had my son in September. And it was the Monday after the Super Bowl, February 2013. And it was my first day back in the office from maternity leave. And I was going to get my business all back together, talking about those things that agents do to
Right?
get their business on track. And I was sitting there doing all kinds of stuff. And I had to leave to go to a meeting for the Association of Realtors. It was a salesperson of the year selection meeting. And I was a past recipient. My mom was a past recipient. She should have been at the meeting, but she didn't show up to half the association things because she was a top producer, I say in air
Right.
quotes. And we leave that meeting and I get a call and everything changed in that moment. And it was a call from my stepfather. And he said, Bobbi, your mother has taken her life. And I had a 4-month-old little boy at the home. And that's when I had to decide how I stay in an industry that has taken so much from me. But what I discovered in the next few months when I took some time, I became actually a virtual assistant for agents in Nashville, agents in Charlotte, North Carolina, Atlanta, was that this industry had actually given me so much. I wouldn't
Mhm.
be the human being that I am today if it had not been for the real estate industry, the people I had surrounded myself with who were there for me the best of times and the worst of times. And so mental health is really, really important to me because I lost my mom to suicide and yet I didn't have to lose her to suicide. And so we need to talk more openly and honestly in our society that it's okay to not be okay, but it's
Yep.
not okay to not raise your hand and
Yeah.
say, I need help.
Yes, and sometimes, for me so just, another reason why I'm such a huge supporter of mental health is because I have also been through suicide. I had my stepfather who committed suicide right in front of my mother and I when I was 16. I also have lost, a cousin, my cousin's son. He was not even 16 years old, and we lost him to suicide, and there's some other friends of mine. I mean, I feel like suicide has really been a part of my life. It's a part
Yeah.
of what makes me who I am
Mhm.
because you just can't get away from something like that. Um, sorry, frog in my throat. But getting back to that though, going through such traumatic experiences and also having that that weight that hangs on you because there
Mhm.
is a weight. I mean, I don't care who you are, you're always like, I could have done something, I could have said something, I could have been there more, and the reality is there's nothing that anybody can do in a moment like that. But for me, going through the times that I have been through has definitely opened my eyes that mental health is definitely a need. It's definitely something that people should talk about. It's not something to be ashamed about. It's not something to, make fun of or anything. And if you are that person that needs help, I want to be that person or put you in the right direction for a person that will listen or make you feel better in times of need. So what I love about that, just to go into my next question, is you changed that for yourself to become a speaker on mental health. So what is that like for you now, taking something that is such a personal story and then being able to impact somebody's life with that?
So you said the exact same thing that I say all the time. I'm not ashamed or embarrassed to speak about what happened to my mom. People are always like, you're so strong to talk about it. I'm like, I honestly feel like I have a duty and an obligation to share my story
I
because
do
if I
too.
can help one other person, then I've done my job. Because you talked about the guilt that comes with it. And even though I know it's not my fault, even though I know there's nothing I could change, I told you it was my first day back in the office from maternity leave. That was February. The last time my mom had seen my son had been Christmas Eve. And I had begged her the entire month of January, please come see Alex. I'm home. I'm on maternity leave. You can see him anytime. That morning, right after I got into the office and was working on my schedule and getting my business back on track, I got a text from my mom that said, "When can I see Alex?" And my visceral reaction was to pick up my phone, throw it across my office, and scream out loud, "F you, lady." Only
Right.
I said it little, not as clean as that. And then I picked up my phone and I said, "You can see him anytime you want to see him. I'll make him available to you." Skip forward 2 hours later, and I get a call that she's gone.
Yeah.
And I have to forever live with the fact that my last visceral reaction to my mother was one of pure hatred, pure anger. I was so mad at her. My saving grace is she didn't know that, but I know that. And so for me to get out into the communities, to share the story, just like you said, is if somebody raises their hand, you're going to be there for them, to either be there for them or to give them the support and the resources they need. I have a 1 hour keynote that I love to do that's called Lessons from the Other Side. And it's lessons that I've learned from my mom's career, from my career, of how we can support and be there for each other. One of my points is the struggle is real, which is a trite saying, but it's true. We all
It's so true.
struggle on some level. And then my next point after that is it takes a village, but it takes a village not to raise a child, but to raise a human being. And we all need that village. And so the more that we can talk about that, the better we all get. One of my points is that if you can solve a problem with money, it's not really a problem. I
Right.
can't bring my mom back from the dead. I can't get some friends out of jail with money. But too often, the things that stress us out, the things that ruin marriages, usually come back to money things.
Yep.
We're in a unique position in real estate that if we just go work harder, go work more, we can make more money. So don't let money be the thing that stresses us out and puts us at the end of our ropes, essentially. And
Well,
so
absolutely.
I hear a lot of people come back to me, go, "Man, I was just so stressed out the other day." And then I realized it's just money. I can always make more. And that to me is the thing that keeps me going and doing what I do.
Right. And for me, like it goes back to my family, particularly my grandmother more than anybody, because as you're growing up through life, everybody, I don't care who you are, has thought about it, has thought about it, has been down on their luck so many times. I mean, I come from a really rough past, so trust me, I had plenty of times to think about it, but there was always one constant phrase that was always in my head, and it was from my grandmother. And my grandmother said this, and I say it to almost everybody that I talk to who might be struggling with mental health that I'm personally helping. And that is, there is nothing, and I mean nothing, in this world that can be that bad for it to cost you your own life.
I love it.
And so for me growing up, I was always like, wait, is this that bad? Like, is it really that bad? Because most of the time it's not, but it's taking that moment to realize that this is now, it's not forever,
Exactly. That's what I always say too, is no matter what moment you're in, that moment's going to change. It may get worse, it might get better, but it's just a moment in time, and just keep living on till the next moment. I actually, and probably can't see it on the screen, but I have a semicolon tattoo that's in memory of my mom and my own struggles, because I've had my own struggles with mental health. My mom's father also took his life. So like there's a cycle that has to stop, and it stops with me. And I just have moments where I get really stressed out. And what I've discovered is I find myself just rubbing my semicolon tattoo, and just it's there, and it's like, okay, that's what I needed to get through this moment. So now I can experience the next moment.
Well, and I love that, and having those constant reminders too, which is another important point I think that should be talked about, whether that's a tattoo on your wrist or a t-shirt. For me, it's a t-shirt from my cousin. We did shirts that say "You matter." And I wear it every single year on his either birthday or that day. And I always post it on my social media for those to know that, if you are out here and you don't have anybody, you're struggling, you need somebody to talk to, whatever that case may be, like, you matter to me. I am that person for anybody. I don't care if I know you or don't, doesn't matter, because everybody to me has value.
Yeah.
You are a valuable person in this world, even if you don't feel that value today.
I get in large rooms and I say, I don't care if I've ever met you before or not met you. I want you to know that I love you, because every single human being, just like you said, has value. And I love you and treasure you for the human being you are, even if you don't treasure yourself.
It's so true. So true. Well, another thing that I love about you is that you run and do marathons. So was this something that you did or kind of fell into that helped with mental health for you personally?
So I actually first got started in doing marathons when I was at my college for my college graduation. My mom sent myself and my now husband to Orlando, and while we were there, the Disney World Marathon was going on, and I saw these people walking around Disney World with these big, huge medals on, and I'm a competitive person. Okay, fine. I saw these people walking around. I was like, well, if they could run a marathon, I can run a marathon. So I ended up running my first marathon with Team in Training, which supports the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. I had a cousin who was diagnosed with leukemia, and he was the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society Boy of the Year. And so I decided to do a marathon with that group to honor and support him. And then it kind of stuck. And then after I lost my mom, it honestly became my stress relief. It actually has become a part of my thing. If I go, I'm currently doing a thing where I'm running 1 mile every day. And if you don't, you get kicked out of the group, whatever. But there will be times where before that, where it'd be like a month before I would go run. And my husband would look at me and he's like, you're going to go run today. And I was like, I don't want to run. And I tell people this all the time. I don't actually enjoy running. I hate it. I enjoy what running does for me. It's a good mental health release for me. I can work through problems. We make a joke. I do what's called running math. I make these really complicated math problems and then I solve them while I'm running because it takes a long period of time. And it's like, oh, the last 20 minutes went by. I didn't even notice it. So for me, it has become a part of my mental health, but that's not how it started.
You know, what I love about that and the reason why I'm laughing is not at you, but just how like everything that you keep saying just brings me back to why we are going to be best friends because I literally started working out like probably almost a year ago. Like I'm coming up on my year date. But that's all I do is I literally was that person that was like, you know, when I work out is when I'm like running from death. Okay. Like I didn't work out, you know, like I hate running. I hate doing all of that. So I started just trying to get to a mile every day on the treadmill, whether that be like walking or running or whatever. And now when I go in, I get 2 miles in every day. And I'm telling you, people need me to run, you
Yep.
know what I mean? Or need me to
Yes.
walk on a treadmill. And I didn't realize how better I was going to feel, how better my mental state or my mental health was going to be or anything until I started doing that. So I just think it's so awesome.
Yeah. It really is. You don't even recognize it until you're doing it and you're like, what's gotten better? You know, and I always, one of my favorite sayings is gradually, then suddenly. Like
Mm,
little bitty changes happen. And then all of a sudden you don't notice them happening. It's like kind of like your children. You don't notice them growing until one day you look over, how did you get so tall? It's the
right.
same thing with the working out. It's, you don't notice the little bitty things until you look back a couple months later and you're like, whoa, who is that person?
Mhm,
What have I become? And I love all the things I get from it. So I'm gonna keep doing
mm.
it.
So, I know I didn't really kind of preface you with this question, but you just made me think of it. As a parent and
Mhm.
going through, you know, everything that you have overcome, with everything, mental health and your family, are you kind of, you know, obviously being mindful of things with your child and what kind of things do you work on? You know, not just with your kid, but maybe that's just other people to kind of help that process now.
Well, so, my son, we really hadn't been necessarily completely open and honest with him with all of my past history because, well, at the time COVID hit, he was 7. So,
Right. Yeah.
but I was doing Zooms where I would do my thing and he would hear me in the other room and started asking questions. And so I realized I have a duty and an obligation to him to help him the best I can. He's a gifted student. He plays the violin, he's in gifted classes, which also means he's a perfectionist.
Yep.
And one of the things that they talk about in his gifted program is emotional strength, emotional wellness, emotional intelligence is one of the things they talk about because gifted kids really do struggle with when something's wrong, beating up on themselves. And I know I've always did that myself. And so breaking that cycle with him that we are going to make mistakes, but what we're going to do is we're going to fail forward. We're going to learn
Mhm.
from these things. When you fail, you never fail backwards unless you give up. But if you fail
Absolutely.
and you learn from it, then you make the stuff going forward. And that's how I've always been with the people around me. You can never fail with me unless you just completely quit and give up and walk away from something.
Yep. And I feel very similar to that, although I love the way that you word it. But I'm the same, especially from a parent role. You know, I have 4 kids in a blended family situation, 2 of my own, though. My son is also 10, going on 11. And he actually struggles in the opposite way. So he has IEP
Mhm.
issues and ADHD and hyper ADD, and that comes with a lot of just that emotional intelligence
Yep.
not clicking with him. And so I find it interesting, which is why I asked that I'm always constantly working with him on, hey, we need to talk about emotions. We need to talk about how you're feeling. We need to work through all of that that's inside of you and find healthy outlets for that. So it's just
Yep.
interesting.
We are going to be besties. I'm so excited.
I know. Okay, so one last question on this topic, but for our listeners who might be listening, what would be some advice that you would share with anyone who might be struggling right now?
Is find someone and share what's going on with them. Being vulnerable and being transparent is the one thing that I think can make all of the difference in this world. Because too often, especially those of us in the public eye, we feel like we have to put on this bright, shiny face and that everything's always perfect. When everything happened with my mom, her story is very reminiscent of that of Robin Williams, Kate Spade, Anthony Bourdain, and now we have to even put Naomi Judd onto the list.
Yep.
Naomi Judd was one day out from being recognized in the Country Music Hall of Fame. By all looks on the outside, her life was going perfectly, yet she was dealing with her demons on the inside because she kept them to herself. My mom was very much that way. She kept everything to herself. I mean, there were people who called the FBI accusing my stepfather of murder. Because there's no way Nancy would have ever taken her life. And I knew that was actually most likely how her life would end. Not when it happened, but I've known since I was in 8th grade that that's most likely how things would end, unfortunately. And so it's just whenever I've reached my hand up and said, I'm not okay, I'm usually either surrounded by people who say, oh my God, I'm not okay either. Thank God we can commiserate together. Or they show up for me and say, hey, I love you. I want to help you. And I'm here for you. You're not alone. So that's the thing, is just raising your hand and saying, I'm not okay, because most likely you're going to be surrounded by people who are going to run to your side.
Yeah. And it is kind of surprising on that level when you're in that moment, because most of the time when people are in that moment, they're afraid to raise their hand because they're afraid of being that vulnerable. They're afraid of what kind of response they are going to get from people. But here's the thing. If you raise your hand, and let's say for the sake of, this conversation that you do get a negative response, reach it to somebody else.
Yep.
Just keep reaching it up and keep trying to find somebody, because it's only going to be probably that one time. And then you're going to be surrounded, that was kind of my personal experience too, especially as a kid growing up. And I'm also talking to kids in this episode, not just adults. And, there are people out there. So just keep raising your hand. I love that.
And I also say to people that you have people in your life who do not deserve you for the person you are. Let those people go and fill your life with the people who do deserve you and will support you back the way you'll support them.
I love it. That's good advice. Okay, last question, kind of a rapid fire, but I ask it on every show. So first one is, where is an area of growth you want to experience either personally or professionally?
Focus. Just no too many squirrels just running around everywhere. Focus is the thing. I'm narrowing down the things that I'm willing to give my time and attention to.
I love that. Yeah, I relate, because my thing is like, do I have control over? Is this something I can control? Okay, no, then I need to let it go. That's it's hard for me.
Exactly.
Okay, where is an area you feel like you're currently thriving?
It's funny because you just brought this up, but consistency. I feel like I'm doing really good at being consistent. 92 days ago, I joined a group where you have to run at least 1 mile a day, post a selfie and your stats with doing it. And once a week, they kick out anybody who's not posted every single day. And that level of accountability I've been running for 20 some years, and yet to being in a group where they'll kick you out and I'll run 1 mile a day at the very least. But I'm like you, I'm almost to the 2 mile a day thing now. So yes.
That's great. That's awesome. Okay. What inspires you?
My family. My mom always put business first, family second. And I'm inspired by my family and just the opportunities and the things we have. Like I almost get like teary-eyed just thinking of all the future things we have coming up and how much it means that the purpose of business is to fund your perfect life. And my perfect life is my family. And I'm just so thankful and grateful I have the opportunity to spend my days with them.
I love that answer. That's a perfect answer. Well, Grow, Thrive, Inspire listeners, we could not be more thankful to Bobbi for giving us a sneak peek into her personal life and her professional life of being COO for RE/MAX Regional Services. We look forward to seeing much more of Bobbi in the future and appreciate the impact that you are making, Bobbi. I know I sure appreciate the impact that you're making, and I can't wait to keep supporting that impact. So, Bobbi, if somebody wanted to connect with you, how would they go about doing that?
So you can find me on Facebook. I'm Bobbi Howe, BOBBIHOWE. You can bobby.howe@gmail.com. You can email me. You can even text me 816-262-6102. You can find people get mad at me for sharing my contact information all the time. I'm like, I've had the same cell phone number since I was 16. My number is out there. I'm not afraid to share it. So you can reach out to me in any way. I'll be here for you. So
yeah, same, girl. I think my phone number has been the same for the past 12 years. So well, we have more episodes coming, so be sure to tune back in on Wednesdays and like and subscribe to our pages for all the latest updates. You can find us on all of them, anywhere you get your podcasts. We're probably there, also on YouTube and on Facebook and Instagram. Huge thank you to our sponsors as well, Michael and Michelle Lassen with First State Bank Mortgage. You can find them at yourlakeloan.com. And remember to always grow, thrive, and inspire, and we'll catch you next time.